The next question is coming from the brother Anijeb or Power Tap. He says in the Proverbs of Yanun, it says Wu Tzaba� and Wu Ṭabaʄ are the same thing. Could you explain?
Yeah, well, remember now, the only thing that happened maybe in the last couple of years is he changed the name. That's why I keep trying to tell people when everybody heard about Wu Tzabaʄ, well, it was called Sabaism at first. They say Sabaism, and then it moved into Wu Tzabaʄ. Everybody thought that meant we were switching cultures, and it's not. You know, when you speak about Sabaism, and you speak about Nawaup, or you speak about Wu Nawaup or Wu Nawaup, these are the same. These are the same teachings. The teachings are based on the same thing. One thing we got to remember about our culture is that many names have been bestowed upon our people by outsiders and ourselves over time in the course of the last 6,000 years or our 24,000 year history, right? So a lot of time it take on a different name depending on the region we are in, depending on the dialect that we might be using, or depending on the season we might be in. Like for the survival of what we are doing, we might have had to change the name. So you didn't see that it really was the same thing. So the switch over from Wu Tzabaʄ the switch over from Wu Nawaup and Wu Tzabaʄ is just had to do with the name, but the underlying essence of what he was teaching is the same. One thing I'm gonna do a post on it. It's already done. I just got to post it on the group to show the connection between the word Saba in the glyphs S'(BA), right, and the word noob inside the Semitic language, which can also be found in the glyphs too as gold, right? But to show you, when you get down to the underlying meaning behind both of these words, they are really saying the same thing. So when you look at the word Wu Nawaup, the root of that word is noop, right? NWP, noop. Noop means really to replace. So when you say noob, NWB, that means to predict or to foretell or to inform, right? You can find that inside the Semitic language, the Bible, and the Qur'ans under words like nubuwa, or in the Qur'an, nubuwa, right? The root of that is the word nabi. Well, they say prophet, but in the language they're going to say noob, right? So, but Nabi inside the Semitic culture, being the Bible and the Quran, is somebody who, they got two different types of Nabis. One Nabi is a person who receives the scripture, or a prophet. Nabi is prophet who receives the scripture. Then you got another type of Nabi, one who predicts the future, right? So when we was going by the term Nuwabiyin or Nuwapiyin, he always taught us that the root of that word was noob, right? To inform, to predict. A news bearer, somebody who brings glad tidings, somebody who brings good news. So these Nabis or these Nuwapians were actually the people who were like messengers or apostles. These were the ones who were getting the message from these angelic beings called in the Bible called in the Bible Malakim, or in the Quran Malikat, right? The angels. They were getting the message from the angels, and then these Nabis or these prophets was taking that message to the people. So what Nuwapians were these news bearers, or these ones who bring glad tidings, or those who were informed. That's what we were. That's what Nuwapian really is. If you get into these scriptures where the root of what it means, or the underlying meaning of it, when people say we Nuwapians, that's what he really had it to be. Now, when you get into the word Saba, right? Saba inside the language of the ancient Egyptian language, because if you look in the Bible, when you get under the word Seba, Sheba, they're going to say a foreign origin, because the word is not Semitic, the word is not Chaldean, the word is not Phoenician. It comes from the ancient Egyptian language, what they call the Metuneta, or the Sufuf, or the Safaf, or the Suf, right? So that word has many different forms inside the glyphs. One of the meanings of the word is what? Teacher, an instructor, a scribe, a scientist, a philosopher. So, or if you say Sibayet means wisdom teachings. It's a set of teachings in the ancient Egyptian. Sibayet, Wu Tzabaʄ, set of teachings, you see? So the people who were called Siba, or the people who were called Saba'u, the Sabians. That's what you roughly translate it as, because when you put U on the end of the ancient Egyptian language, that's a plural for beings, just like in our language now, Ms. Batia, right? So when you say Saba'u, Sabians are these teachers. Saba also means star in the ancient language, right? Stars. Why? Because these Sabians or these Sabatu came, or these teachers came from beyond the stars. But they were the intellectuals in ancient Egypt. All the information was coming from these Sebas or these Sabians in ancient Egypt. So you see the connection between the Sabians and these Nawapians. These were the two people who were informed in ancient Egypt, and then you had ancient Israel or Mesopotamia when our land had fell, and our people migrated all throughout the world and took what they knew, and they buried it in these religions, which became the Bibles in the Quran. When you look at the Bible in the Quran, you're really looking at Egyptian books mistranslated. Why you think Baba Yanun, right, has been using these books for the last 40-something years and teaching you everything under the sun? From Mafkuzet, from the creation story, from anything you can name. The Ark of the Covenant that they had in Egypt being a cell phone in the Bible, that's an Egyptian story, right? Most anything you can name, you notice he been teaching it through that Bible. Why? Because when we gave the Israelites doctrine, we gave them stones. They call it shuti in ancient Egypt. When you see Moses holding these two tablets up, that we say was what they say was the 10 Commandments, right? If you notice in ancient Egypt, all the stones, all the books that we had look like those books that Moses had. Like
steelers?
Yeah, they call them shuti. Okay. With the two books. So you see Moses holding them. If you look at the Shabaka stone, don't it look like that? It always got this round shape. Because these were books written in stones. We get like me stones or books made of quartz. Because all of the stones that we were using were like granites that have quartz in them. They call them schismatic stones. They have like crystals inside them. And we use those for a reason. So we gave them these books that were in stone. They took these books and they translated to papyruses. And they got that from us too. Papyruses and other forms of scrolls. And then they changed the names of these books. You see what I'm saying? So that's why that Bible that we hold in today is so tied into ancient Egypt, where you can find most of our story was transferred over to these Israelites. So that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of what we did in ancient Egypt was just carried on into other cultures and became other things. You see what I'm saying? So when you're talking about Wu Tzaba� and Wu Nawaup, it's the same thing. Just different names being used for different schools of thought, you know, depending on where we at. But like I said, I got a post on it where I got all of the words, you know what I'm saying, from the ancient Egyptian language to the ancient Hebrew to the ancient Arabic, all of that to show you the comparison and how these really are saying the same thing. So it's no different than what people thinking about. We think when we hear Sabian or when we hear Sabaik or we hear Sabaism, we think about Yemen, we think about South Arabia, and we think about Ethiopia, which would be the modern day Sabians who came from a man in the Bible called Joktan. It had nothing to do with the ancient Sabians who came from Cush, Seba, right? And Cush's grandson, Cush's grandson who was Rama, who had a son named Sheba. These were the people coming out of Northeast Africa who was the foundation of ancient Egypt. Because remember, Saba was the name of the land inside Cush, right? And these were the founders of ancient Egypt, even though the white man reversed the story and tell you that the Egyptians were first and then the Cushites took their culture from the Egyptians, but it's really the other way around. Civilization started in Sudan or Kush, and then it moved up to ancient Egypt to get to the Mediterranean on out, you know. So like I said, it's no different. Wu Tzaba� and Wu Nawaup is the same thing. It's the same culture. So I hope that answered your question.
Tabata.